Kia ora and welcome to CIO Leadership Live. I'm Kathy O'Sullivan, editor for CIO New Zealand. My guest today is Doug Talbot, CIO/CTO at Environment Canterbury. Hello, Doug.
Hi, Kathy. Great to be here.
Thanks. Great to have you here. So to, kick things off, can you tell us a little bit more about your role and what your team at ECAN does?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so we're a multidisciplinary team. We do everything from your usual keeping the lights on, providing people with their laptops and their Wi-Fi, and making sure that we've got the equipment around our offices, which cross across the whole of Canterbury, going and running. And we also try and work on creating great digital toolkit and services for our staff and our citizens, which includes many hundreds of thousands of ratepayers who have to interact with us, and about 850 staff now.
So we talk about transformation as if it's a given within organizations, but in reality, it's not an easy thing to do. So how has that approach taken shape in your own career?
Yeah, so I guess I encountered the Agile movement very, very early on in my career, early 2000s, and I guess I've been through 6 or 7 different transformations with organizations from retail, banking, and government over the last 20 years. And that has, a couple of things have stuck with me. One is that transformation needs to be evolutionary, not revolutionary. And we can't see it as a one-off project. We need to set a direction, a vision for our transformation, our new culture, our new ways of working. And we need to then constantly evaluate ourselves on that journey. So to make that evolutionary transformation model work, we have to bring in a learning culture. And Peter Senge's work on that, I think, is one of the better works on how we can bring in that kind of learning culture into our organizations. But it's very much about how do we bring those two things together so that we're constantly looking at ourselves and going, well, we're in a complex space, nothing is truly certain, so let's try something for the next couple of months and check hopefully some useful metrics on whether or not we're going in the right direction.
So what do you think then are the key steps CIOs must take along the way? Is there a starting point to kick off a transformation journey?
It depends on your outcome. It depends on what the journey is towards. It's that what's the North Star, or I guess we're in the southern hemisphere, so our South Star maybe, Matariki or something. I guess that's if all we're saying is, well, we need to move next from, say, we're very, very, very low maturity, even in digitization, we've got loads of paper and process that is very manual and non-automated, then our first step might just be digitization. And a lot of people talk about that as the transformation that everyone's on at the moment. And people associate things like cloud and I guess various bits of test automation or process automation with that. But actually, there's at least a couple of steps after that, and we need to know whether they're going to be part of our journey as well. Are we going to be really trying to transform our way of thinking about our products to a customer-centric view? Are we going to bring in that kind of part of digital thinking so that we're really thinking about customer centricity, about a digital partnership with our customer so that we hear them, listen to them, live with them, and really understand their lives so we build the right product? Or are we even going further and we're trying to say, well, actually, for me, the end of the digital transformation journey is what makes digital companies so successful in the world nowadays? It's their ability to adapt, in which case we're talking about a business agility model, and that's all about culture, not about digitization. So if all we're talking about is digitization, then that's going to set a very, very different set of things on our roadmap than if we actually want to go to a digital culture where we're in that adaptive learning mode, and we're going to think about different things being on the table.
And how are you implementing that customer-centric approach at ECAN? What kind of things are you looking at?
Yeah, so clearly we're very aware that we look after hundreds of thousands of citizens, but actually, because we are quite low maturity in terms of the digital services and products that we have available inside the organization at the moment, we've set our next adjacent kind of next jump, if you will, our first step forward on our evolution, as customer centricity with our local staff, customer centricity so that we're getting partnership with the 27 departments, so that we try and spend more time sitting down with our business owners and managers across our operational pieces and saying, what does your life look like? What's the value stream that you're part of? How could we provide a toolkit that would make that easier and better for you, and having that conversation? And that means stopping some of our staff from being what I would call ticket takers, and starting to get them much more happy to have a conversation with the people who are turning up with the tickets, and sit down and say, hey, what's the real problem behind that? Why is that happening? Is there a root cause? Could we actually fix something deeper inside the organization? And start to get into more of those conversations. So we're bringing in the idea of 4 service streams into our tech group. We're moving away from functional. We had a data team, a GIS team, a knowledge team, a infrastructure team, etc. And those functional silos were obviously struggling to deliver a fully formed product outcome to any request that came in. So now it's about, reform into product teams or service teams that are wrapped around 4 core services for our organization, so that we can have a whole team conversation about what are the best ways we could tackle that problem with our customer, and get into that conversation. So that's our kind of first steps, at least at the moment.
So can you tell us, Doug, what are some of the common roadblocks to avoid along the way on a transformation journey? Look,
I think the roadblocks are very common to all organizations, and almost you can't avoid them. I think the key is having tactics to work through them. Because if we're going to change culture, or we're going to change habits of an organization, whatever the energy that has gone into the previous state, and getting it to that state is what you're going to have to overcome to move it from that state and move it onwards. Yeah. And so it's going to take a lot of energy no matter what. And I think that pretending like it's going to be a quick and easy, it would probably be the biggest roadblock. We shouldn't imagine that way. But I think then it's very much leadership, probably for me, leadership realizing that they need to be an intrinsic part of leading and driving the transformation journey. So if they are an active part of it, and they walk the walk and talk the talk and engender the new behaviors of the new world, then it will move far faster, and it will be far smoother and more likely to be successful. If they feel like it is an issue just for maybe the agile teams or the tech teams or the people at the coalface to change, then it's clearly going to be, I'd say that's going to be a long and hard journey. The coalface will change when they see us as leaders acting differently. And that means probably having your CEO and any other executive team on board with that, with what are the principles of the change? What is the transformation journey? What's the outcomes? And making sure that's really clear and it's been well discussed, time spent really hashing it out, and making sure everyone's got the same words and memes and metaphors, and that then there's a great communication and way for that message to come from the leadership into the people, where maybe the actual fundamental practices and process might be changing, but the belief is coming from the leadership above. So that would be my number one roadblock.
Yeah. So then, as a CIO/CTO, in what ways are you collaborating and influencing your organization and its leadership team?
Yeah. So we've just started a kind of a team to look after the transformation initiative for the next years to come. And I'm an active part of that team, providing, my experiences as a CIO in going through agile transformations and product transformations in the past, and trying to talk about exactly what we've been talking about with that implementation team, if you will, and helping make sure that we also stand on the shoulders of giants. We bring in those into the organization who are experienced and have been through it to work with us, because it can't come from my boss likes to say it would not work if we were trying to teach our team to play rugby and they'd never played rugby before, but we as a leadership team were learning rugby for the very first time and trying to pass it on right now while we're learning it to the people who have never done it before. So what we need to do is bring in rugby coaches, and we need those coaches to be there with both the leadership team and the individual contributors, making sure everyone's learning at the same time. So helping identify people who know what they're talking about, have been through those transformations, ideally lived through it with an organization over multiple years, not just talked about it at a consultancy level. And then, we're then actively trying to make sure that our teams become, active members of the champions for this change. So
then what do you think are some of the key attributes of a successful modern day CIO when it comes to leadership?
Look, I think that there's a new version of leadership for all leaders, I think, and it's the same, I think, for all leaders. And that is that in a modern knowledge work organization, and let's not just talk about tech and non-tech, let's think about actually what most of what the core organizations of our economy are doing nowadays is mostly knowledge work. In those spaces, things are best if they're done by many people. And when you've got many people from many different disciplines and diversity coming together and trying to achieve tasks together, then you need leadership that has knowledge of the sociology of that group, of the psychology of that group, of how do different specialisms hang together? How can they better operate together? What does collaboration, cooperation look like in that space? And can talk things like we have spoken for the last 20 years in the Agile space about self-organization, about empowerment, about joint ownership, and those kinds of things, and bring those to life. And so that leadership is no longer the person who's the top guru in a specialism. It's not, we need leaders who care about the human dynamic, care about the sociology of the group, and are looking for the best we can get out of a team and a cross-functional team. So it's no longer being able to mentor and tell everyone in the team what to do, because you don't know all of their jobs. You've never lived all of their jobs. And that, I describe that as either, an organizational engineer or an organizational ecologist, is how some people in this space are describing it. And I'm talking about organizational gardening. And that's thinking about our organization as an ecology, as an ecosystem. And how do we work with that? And I've very much been a kind of believer in this for quite a number of years now. And that means as we bring new leaders in our teams, it's not necessarily the best guru in a particular technical thing that we need to do, or a particular business thing we need to do. It's the people who are tuned to that sociology and to that ecosystem that we need to grow and put them on a new career path, which I would argue is organizational engineering or something like that, rather than technical engineering.
It's a lovely phrase, looking after your garden. So when you think about your own garden at work and the patch that you look after, how then are you creating an internal culture that really helps people thrive and achieve their personal and professional goals?
Look, it's really, really hard. One of the things I try and do is I try and talk about principles. I talk about key values and principles and behavior for our group. And I try and make sure that those things are what I am focused on, not specific work items or specifically the way we solve a particular problem for our business. That's for the individual contributors to be the experts in. What I want people to do is think about our principles of customer centricity, our principles of, collaboration or trust or empowerment, or maybe even principles like flow efficiency as an efficiency principle. Let's think about the flow of work rather than whether or not we've got everyone maxed out 120% of their time in context switching like mad, and avoid those kind of bad mentalities of efficiency. So I very much talk about principles with my team and try and stay away from hopefully the nitty gritty. And then the other thing is being as open and honest as I possibly can be with the team, and making sure that I have regular conversations about what's going on, try and keep everyone as informed as possible, tell them what I'm thinking, tell them what I'm feeling, and try and get into an ability to have a very open dialogue with your teams and with your crew. So I guess those are my two fundamental practices that I try and live by. So yeah.
Great. And what would your advice be then for anyone who is aspiring to be a CIO or a leader in the IT space?
I think the number one is it's not about tech. So if your passion is perfect tech or perfect architecture or perfect data or perfect machine learning or something, then CIO may not be the job for you. And I think that you do need to have a certain passion for the human dynamic, for the how do we get great teams to work. My job is effectively trying to create an Olympic 8 rowing team, not to be the best rower. And I would say I was a mediocre developer at best when I was a developer. I was always interested in other parts of the problem, and I think that's the first thing: is check if that really is your thing. If you care about the dynamic of the rowing 8 and you want to be able to help the team succeed, then this could definitely be the role for you. And the second one is never stop growing, never stop learning. In our industry, it's worse than many others, but it's becoming a ubiquitous around the world. And that is, if you have a growth mindset, then there's going to be a new tech or product or idea coming at you every 6 months in our industry. And you have to be able to take them on board and say, how is that going to add to my team? How is that going to make my rowing 8 faster? Is it going to give us new oars or a new boat, or is it going to be new training mechanisms for us to train together, or is it going to be new sociology for us to survive when we lose and we don't win all of the races? And so it's very much bringing that to play.
And so then finally, to wrap up, Doug, can I ask you what's important to you now in the months ahead?
The things coming up for us, the most important things for us is taking our capability as a digital team into our business and becoming that digital partner with our staff and our customers, so that we can really create the toolkit that's going to allow us to meet the demands of climate change and all of the environmental pressures we're under. So that's really the biggest thing for us at the moment. We've already made some big cloud leaps and those kind of more digitization problems. So it's very much now about those next steps in the maturity of our interaction in the organization. But I'd say along with that, the other biggest challenge is we really want to build up a team capable of building those products for the future. And obviously there's a huge skills shortage and market crunch at the moment for tech people across the world. So we're going to be out talking about a purpose-driven brand and what we're here to achieve for New Zealand, and hope that we can show that local government and government in general can be a place of digital innovation, which has huge value for all New Zealanders. And so we're going to be on a bit of a recruitment drive, I guess, to bring that message out there now that the doors are opening up and so that we can create that partnership and live up to our promises.
CIO/CTO at Environment Canterbury, thank you so much for your time today.